In this video, I'm going to go through a grouping of works that feature Amanda Davis. She's been on my radar for quite a long time. I know a little bit about her. I know a bit about the circumstances of her death. I've read some of her work. But recently, I had the opportunity to get a drawing by Dave Eggers, one of about 20 that he did for her memorial, remembrance, tribute, whatever you want to call it. This was very shortly after her death in March of 2003. And so I think the drawing, I really like the drawing. I really like the drawing. But I think that it should have a grouping of her work put together and kept with it to maintain the context of when it was done and why. It's not just a drawing. So I have Story Magazine, Spring 1999. Amanda Davis won the Story Short competition with print, and it is in this issue. And that was used in her first book, Circling the Drain, a collection of short stories. I know that she had another story published in Story. I know the name of it, but I don't know which issue it's in. So it's kind of on my list to run that down. Even though I know the author and the name of the story, nailing down the issue that it was published in isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. So it's kind of have that sketched in. She's also published in Timothy McSweeney's Quarterly Concern, issue number 2. Fat Ladies Floated in the Sky Like Balloons. This story was also in her first book, Circling the Drain, and it was republished in United States of McSweeney's 10 Years of Accidental Classics, republished in 2009. This is actually a Hamish and Hamilton UK edition. I came across it in the decent condition, decent price, so picked it up. I really need to put a US edition with it. That's what I was looking for in the first place. Her first book, Circling the Drain, is a story collection. This is an uncorrected bound galley in green wraps. Nice to have the arcs or the galleys. That's a pretty nice copy. And this is a first printing of the book, Circling the Drain. And this copy is inscribed and signed. Has a really interesting inscription. The more that's in a book, the more story there is to a book, the more I like it. Some collectors would not care for this. They would want it flat signed only, which is fine. And I wish the gift, it has a gift inscription pretty much right below Amanda Davis's signature. I wish that they had pushed the inscription down another inch or so, but it's still very nice. For Kathy, and it's got an arrow slashing down to a phone number. For Kathy, with all best wishes, XX Mandy, 699 Durham. So June of '99 in Durham, North Carolina, and she was from North Carolina. Strong connections to New York and California, but from North Carolina. Then 718-387-5154. Call. So a nice signed copy and a really nice inscription, gift inscription. I would prefer if she pushed the inscription down a tad, but it's still very nice. I do have another first printing that is flat signed, and a lot of collectors would prefer this flat sign, and I like it. It looks nice, but given a choice, out of focus here, there we go, given a choice, I would probably take the signed one with the gift inscription because it's more interesting. This is an uncorrected bound galley, uncorrected proof for Wonder When You'll Miss Me. Wonder When You'll Miss Me. Blue wraps. Not quite as nice as the other proof, but it's pretty nice. There are probably not a lot of these around. I don't know. I've only ever, this is the only one I've seen, and there we go. And the got a hardcover first printing. They're not that hard to come by. William Morrow. There are a lot of people who are not happy with her publisher at the time. Her acquiring editor between the first book and the second book left William Morrow, and so she was orphaned there, and just felt that William Morrow wasn't really invested in her or her book. They didn't tour her, and the way contracts are done, sometimes authors get the short end. Acquiring editor leaves. Nobody at the company wants to be responsible for a particular book or a particular author, and they just go through the motions and they don't really take good care of it. And there are some ill feelings between friends and fans of Amanda Davis and the publisher, and William Morrow didn't handle things tremendously well. But that's a kind of a sidebar story. But they did not tour her, which is what I'm getting to. I don't know if the book was released in and she had a strong connection to New York. I don't know if they premiered the book in New York with a big book signing bash. She also had a strong connection to California. Given that they didn't tour her and were really, you know, halfway behind her in the book, her opening, her premiere, her book party, whatever you want to call it, might have been in California. I'm not connected really to the right people to know the full story, but she was in California, and she signed some copies out there. I know she signed some copies for some bookstores, and then she went to North Carolina. Her father and her mother, I believe, were both college professors. They both took a month off, and her father was a pilot with a Cessna, and so they were going to tour her book for a month. And so she went from California to North Carolina to start her tour in her home state, and they made just a couple of stops. They were flying out of Asheville and hit a mountain, not too far from Black Mountain. I'm in Waynesville. I'm only 45 minutes away from where she crashed. If she'd have been heading this direction, I'd be like 5 minutes away. She only made a couple of stops on her book tour. So a hard copy, first printing, great condition, not that hard to find. William Morrow did print copies. It wasn't like they went with a tiny little print run. You know, they printed enough copies that even now you can get a really nice first printing fairly easily and fairly inexpensively. But signed copies are something else. She had only made like 2 stops in her tour with her parents in the little Cessna. Before the tour, she signed for some bookstores in California. It's probably where most of the signed books came from. It's where my copy came from. The bookseller that I got this from had a relationship with a bookstore in California that she signed at. And this came from there. So, I have a hardcover, first printing, in exceptional condition. And it is signed and dated. It's dated March 1st. She was killed on March 14th, 2 weeks after she signed. So that is a really nice signature. Being dated as it is a bit sobering. She was dead 2 weeks later. Not a lot of signed copies out there, and this is a particularly fine one. Also have Stories of Love and Neuroses. Spiral bound, 8.5 by 11. By Michael Chabon, Amanda Davis, Daniel Handler, and Alet Waldman. And Chabon and Waldman are husband and wife, which most people don't know. And Stories of Love and Neurosis was planned to be in support of Eggers' 826 program, which it wound up being for that. But under the circumstances and the timing and everything, they rushed it to print. I'm told that's the reason that it's printed the way it is, and the reason it is bound the way it is. After the crash, they wanted to go ahead and do this and finish this. So it's not necessarily published the way they had intended. I don't know the full story about it, but I did talk with somebody that knows Eggers and knows a little bit about this, and he was talking to me a little bit about how this got pushed up and he wanted to have it done. Every copy was signed by Handler, Chabon, and Waldman, and they were all good friends with Amanda Davis. I mean, these weren't just like people that wound up together in a 4-story booklet for a charity thing. They were all good friends. And this was in support of 826, which at the time it was only 826 Valencia. Now they got 826 New York, 826 Chicago, 826 National. But at the time, 826 Valencia was the whole thing. And this was intended to be in support of that, to raise money for that. So he signed every copy. Handler, Chabon, and Waldman. It had to be kind of a hard thing to do. These are her friends. You know, the only person missing, the only signature missing, is Amanda Davis, who just died. So it had to be tough for them to sign this. These are fairly scarce. Very people know very much of the story behind it. Most of the listings you see for this piece talk about how rare it is, talk about the signatures, but they don't know anything about it, really. You know, they know it was to support 826, but they really... I've never seen a listing for this that really put it in the context of the bigger story. And that is about the extent of what you can put together for Amanda Davis. I know she wrote for Esquire. I know that she wrote for 17. And I kind of have it sketched in to research some of the things that she wrote, where I might be able to pick up some of these publications if I can identify them. And I lost track of what I was looking for. True Story is Amanda Davis's piece, and I believe that this was also in Circling the Drain. Am I remembering right? I believe it was. Yes, True Story was also in Circling the Drain. No, sure it was. This is issue 11 of Timothy McSweeney's Quarterly Concern. She was also very good friends with Dave Eggers, presumably his wife also, Vendela Vita. After she died, Dave Eggers started a grant for her through McSweeney's. And every 2 years, McSweeney's gives, I believe it's $2,500 to a young woman writer, 32 years of age or less. She was 32 when she died. $2,500 every 2 years, no strings attached. Just right. And so in issue 11, on the front cover end papers, it talks about the creation of the Amanda Davis Highwire Fiction Award. And Highwire Fiction is a reference to Amanda Davis having been in a circus, having worked for a circus, quit what she was doing and joined a circus. So that's where the Highwire comes from. It's not just some random thing. She literally joined a circus, and it was a kind of a big deal for her for a while. So the first winner of the award was Jessica Anthony. Jessica Anthony won the first one, and she went on to publish in McSweeney's and with McSweeney's. Dave Eggers published her first book, The Convalescent, in 2009. It did very well. The Highwire Fiction Award they promoted in, that was for the 2004 award. And in issue 18, they had a little promotional piece for on the first page, just inside the cover. They had a little promotional piece about the Amanda Davis Highwire Fiction Award upcoming for 2006. In issue 26 of the Quarterly Concern, that was a 3-volume set to issue 26. And one of the volumes was News Stories from Our Shores. And apparently Eggers had been holding a piece of hers. And as far as I know, previously unpublished, he had a short in here for issue 26. So he held it for a pretty good while. Sleep. And also in that issue, News Stories from Overseas, they used the back cover to make mention of the Highwire Award. This would have been for 2008. A mention of what it was, and mention the 2004 winner, mention the 2006 winner. This would have been for 2008 that they mentioned that. I don't know if it's something they still do. I was not able to find on the website that this is ongoing. I can't imagine they would have stopped it, but I wasn't able to find the 2014 winner. I'm not able to find on McSweeney's website that it's still ongoing. It would surprise me if they stopped doing it, but I didn't find a 2014 winner, and I haven't found where to learn about the Highwire Award. Now, McSweeney's website is not very good, so it's possible that I just didn't see it. Presumably for 2010 and 2012, they had little promotional things like this as well for 2010 and 2012. And I briefly went through the range of issues that should have appeared in. I didn't see it for 2010 or 12. I may have just missed it, and I may just not be remembering correctly. But anyway, that is the grouping that I have for Amanda Davis. I'm going to put with the Dave Eggers drawing. Would like to get the other issue of Story that she published in, and I'd like to at least find out what she published in Esquire and 17. There can't be a whole lot else out there, but anything that she published first in a magazine somewhere, be nice to identify that story in that issue and be on the lookout for it, because it will probably be as hard to find as it is to find out that it exists. The first thing is to find out that it exists. It's something I should look for, and then it will probably be hard to find. After that, it will probably be no problem. If I find one, it will probably be inexpensive to get. But any stories that she published, any other stories she put in, for example, Circling the Drain, it might have been published somewhere else. And there are clues. On the copyright page, there are clues. about a couple of things that were printed in other places. So I may be able to pick up another Amanda Davis story here. So her first book, a collection of stories. Her second book, her first novel, Wonder When You'll Miss Me. And she was dead a couple of weeks later. And that's all. I think we've got a nice grouping here.